my name's Simon Person, and you're hopefully expecting to see a webinar on GDPR, data security for SAP Business Objects. And unusually for Turnkey's webinars, it's actually not all about us this time. So there we
Excellent.
go.
It is recorded, yes. Okay. Well, thank you, Simon, for the introduction. First of all, I'd like to thank everybody for joining today, and of course, Turnkey Consulting for inviting me. Yes, like Simon said, my name is Patrick Perrier. I'm the technical director here at GB & Smith. We have a solution called 360 Suite, where we try to help everybody owning SAP Business Objects. And today, it will be using our, well, I'll talk about issues with data security, personal data, and GDPR in the context of Business Objects. Okay, so data security and, well, GDPR is, of course, very relevant for everybody using Business Objects. I mean, at the end of the day, it is a platform which is used to connect to databases, hold the data, and distribute data to people within the company or even externally. So there'll be a lot of data. Some of it will be personal or sensitive. So the GDPR regulations obviously are very relevant. On the screen here, you see a few points regarding data security. But obviously, there's some key points like knowing the personal data you're holding, where it is, who has access to it, should be on the top of the list when you own Business Objects. So today I'll talk about these points here on the screen, why they are challenges. I'll try not to go too technical, and of course, what you could do to overcome them. Okay, so the main issues for those of you owning Business Objects is that it is either quite difficult or just you do not have access to the features in Business Objects to help you with these challenges. So again, I'll try not to go too technical, but with Business Objects, you have reports, you have dashboards, and those needs to connect to databases. Most of you will be connecting those reports to something called a universe, or others will have direct link to databases or even queries, maybe inside something called SAP BW. Now, what you can't do with Business Objects is go inside the universe, for instance, mark objects which will have sensitive data, in this case, an example, salary, and then reuse this information later on to know where this salary object, which is clearly pointing to an HR database in this case, where it is used and by whom and how and so on. So this is something that would be very helpful. Okay, so on the screen here we have a report, we have a dashboard as well, and we see that these objects contain sensitive data. In this case, it's about gender. Now, with Business Objects, once again, you don't have a way to just discover which objects you have used sensitive data and where that sensitive data has been used and by whom, and again, how and why and so on. Now, unless you open all these objects one by one, again, this is something that you have to do manually. These reports that you have created, very frequently customers will choose to distribute them. So those reports will run on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. They'll be either saved back to the Business Objects platform or sent externally to email folders or other systems like SharePoint. And once again, another challenge is with Business Objects, although you can at some level discover the instances or those distribution, you cannot find out the exact details of who has received them, what are the jobs that are going to run in the futures, is there anybody who has actually consumed the data that you have distributed. So once again, it's another challenge of having personal data saved offline and withheld in Business Objects or saved externally. Another thing you cannot do with Business Objects is take actions on your discovery, in this case with instances and distribution. If you send things to users' inboxes and that was a mistake, for instance, and you wanted to purge the inboxes, it's not something you could do easily in bulk. If reports were going to the wrong people, so people who had rights previously do not have rights anymore, again, with these subjects, you'd have to edit the jobs one by one, which would be very time-consuming. What would be useful to have is solutions to automate that process. Now, you have all these reports. We need to make sure that the right people have access to this content. Now, although it is a bit painful to administer content in business objects, this is obviously something you can do with the admin console. But what you cannot do is document the security model. You cannot easily tell who has access to what. So if you wanted to do an object-centric security and see, right, I want to know, John, what does he have access to? Or the other way around, I have this HR report or dashboard. Who has access to it? This is not something you can do, again, out of the box with this subjects, and yet again, is going to be another challenge. Business Objects comes with auditing by default and switched on in the latest version, which is great. But again, all the limitations and all the challenges, for those of you with Business Objects, would be that auditing only tracks history and activity that has been done. It does not have access to the file store where the reports are saved. It does not have access to other disk information as well. And it doesn't audit everything anyway by default. The fact that we have some pieces of the puzzle missing means that you cannot do a full lineage and you cannot do a full impact analysis of where my objects comes from in the universe, in which reports they are used, who has used those objects and those reports, and what were their permissions. So to do the full lineage and the full impact of everything is something that doesn't come outside of Business Objects, and there is obviously some part of the answers that you need to get in terms of GDPR. Okay, and finally, in terms of challenges, is backup and restore. Now, one of the principles of GDPR is that you need to be able to recover information quickly if it has been deleted. Now, with Business Objects, out of the box, you have a recycle bin, which is quite limited. It does not allow you to recover everything. But more importantly, there's no feature inside of Business Objects where you can do a partial or a full restore of everything. What you need to do is involve IT, obviously restore the full database and the full file store, which is again that disk area. And by doing a full restore, well, then you take the risk of overwriting other things that have happened since. So again, recovering from a disaster or restoring content that you need to recover quickly will be a challenge for you in Business Objects. Okay, so I said I would talk about challenges and also would like to talk about solutions to make it easy for you. So what we have, like I said, is a solution called 360 Suite. And 360 Suite is a set of modules which can help you in different areas of your GDPR compliance. And you see some of these areas here on the screen, and I'll talk about some of them today. So earlier I mentioned that when you have a universe, it would be quite handy to be able to identify which objects contain personal data and what you could do with that information if it was possible to do it. So we have a tool, it's called 360 Univ. And with 360 Univ, what you can do is extract all of the metadata coming from the universe. You can then decide to mark it. So you see here on the screen, I have marked some employee details as being GDPR personal, and I've marked other data as being GDPR sensitive. And then what's great is when I export this for information back to Business Objects, I can run reports and I can say, right, show me all of the reports which are using such and such objects, which have been marked as GDPR in my Business Objects environment. And then once I have that information, what I can do is do the full data lineage. So I will know, right, okay, so I have these objects, so let's call it salary again. Salary sensitive, it's part of a number of universes. This object is used by a number of reports, and then I can understand fully who has used this report, when, which action has been done on it, why sometimes as well, and where those reports are located and where those reports have been distributed. So this is this full impact analysis and lineage you can do, and you do that with our tool called 360 Eyes, which is a kind of BI on BI, if you want. When it's time to manage your security, like I said, you can maintain the security, of course, in BIS objects. We have a solution here called 360 View, which not only has a very good way of administering the security model. It's a patent we have on something we call the security matrix. But more importantly, as you can see on the right here, you have very easy ways, only one click, to document the entire security model. And then if you wanted to, you could even make updates to the security model and push it back in business objects. A lot of companies find it quite useful to have a history of changes being made in the security model. So that's quite helpful. And in business objects, I've been working with business objects for about 20 years. This is a question I've had so many times over the years. It's great to be able to offer that to our customers. And with 360 View, another thing you do is a lot of bulk actions. Reports by default will hold data. Even if you don't need it, it's going to hold data. Well, you can, at bulk, decide to purge some or all of the reports, for instance. So if you needed to clear some folder, clear some inboxes, or once again, to do actions which would be very time consuming because you need to clean or delete personal content which is no longer relevant, that would be very, very easy to do with this tool here. Another challenge was to understand if we have reports that we have cleared the data security or personal data, and make sure that the problem doesn't come back. So we have a tool called 360 Bind, and what it will do is it will compare a report you have, let's say, in the trusted environment, and will compare reports you have in maybe the production environment. So if you have set up some rules to security rules and data rules to make sure that personal data doesn't go to the wrong person or to the wrong reports, what you can do, and this can be fully automated, and you can just be alerted if there's a problem, but you can say, right, every day or every week, let's run those reports in the production environment. Let's compare them with my source environment where I know that everything is cleared, fully GDPR compliant, and I want to know if somebody's making a mistake somewhere. So if you have somebody updating a universe the wrong way, or somebody building reports with permissions it shouldn't have, using 360 Bind, for instance, you'll be able to automatically and quickly detect those things. Dynamic monitoring is again, something that once you have set up your rules and you have cleaned what needs to be cleaned, it's important to keep an eye on things, and that's not something you want to do manually. So we have solutions where you can automate that process. What you could do is, just like I said before with the previous tool, you could schedule some rules and some reports which will check the lineage or even compare rules you've done between environments. And what you can do is distribute that information only to the relevant people, and that information is, if you want to be fully password protected, everything that we do is obviously part of the full audit trace, so you can report on that as well. And if you need to clear or some instances or some inboxes, like I said before, this is something that you could even automate as part of this tool here. I'm back to 360 Eyes, which is once again our BI and BI. Something quite important is you will be managing your security model. You will make some updates to make sure that only the right people have access to the content. what you can do here is, again, generate reports, which will compare the before and after, either between last month and this month, or between a trusted environment to this environment, and be notified if there are any changes and what those changes are. Now, account recertification is something that we hear a lot that policymakers wants implemented. So this is simply to make sure that the security model that you have in place is still relevant with the latest changes. So there will be things like people who have moved teams, people who have left the company, people who have rights to do things because it's part of their jobs, but it turns out they never use those rights. So with 360 eyes, again, fully document what people have access to. With 360 view, fully document the security model, and then with all this information, you can make the right action and update very easily your BizObjects platform. Okay, and this is my last slide. We talked about backup and obviously recovery in case anything is deleted. Now, one solution we have is called 360 Plus, and what you can do is, well, a number of things regarding the objects. So archiving instances. So if you have reports which are scheduled to run every week, these instances may have sensitive data. And so what do you decide to do? You can decide to leave them in BizObjects. That's fine, and you apply the right security model. But at one point, you're going to have a lot of them, and so often companies want to have those instances out of BizObjects for other technical problems, such as length of external backups and so on. So what you can do is automatically, following some rules, archive instances out of BizObjects, but you keep them offline somewhere because there are other regulations that will require you to keep all this history. So you can take them out of BizObjects. There's less risk in terms of permissions, and you can keep them offline in a secured area. Delete unused contents. You will have content. You will have some personal data. You will know that because you've marked the universe and you reported on those objects with 360 eyes. Well, those objects which have personal data and have not been used in the last 18 months, perhaps, well, very easily, you can just delete them, or like I said before, you could archive them. So if you don't need it, remove it from the platform. And one thing I mentioned is about backup and restore. Like I said, if somebody deletes an entire folder by mistake, or just a report, or there's been a full disaster with BizObjects, it will be quite difficult and very, very time consuming to restore objects, and it may not be with the SLAs that you want. So with 360 Plus, it's very simple. I want to recover the object that was deleted this morning, or I want the object that was deleted maybe a week ago, but I don't want the version of a week ago. I like to restore the object that was a week before that because some changes were made and they weren't the right ones. So we keep a lot of different versions, and when you restore, you can restore the latest versions or an older version. And again, all that with 360 Plus. Okay, so just very briefly about us. GBS Smith, we've been around for 10 years. We're an SAP partner. We have offices in 4 countries, and we have 70 employees. Our tools are used by more than 500 customers, and we are administrating over 2 million users actually worldwide with some of the solutions I've just talked about today. This is just a slide as a recap of our different tools. So we have 360 Suite. It's a collection of modules. Each modules have their own set of features which can work independently, or some tools work well together to resolve some problems. Okay, well, I'd like to thank you again for attending today. I'd like to thank once more Turnkey for inviting me. If you have any further questions about our solutions or tools, please feel free to get in touch with the guys at Turnkey or myself directly.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Patrick. So no doubt there's going to be a load of questions coming from the audience about those particular products. we appreciate within the 30-minute time box that we gave you that it would be unrealistic for you to explain all of the features in any great detail. But that certainly gives us a really good flavour about what it is that 360 can provide and some of the use cases from a GDPR context. So I know we had a question from Craig, so let me just see if I can unmute Craig and see if he can ask that directly.
Hi,
Craig,
Simon.
can you
hear me?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, so the question is, when it comes to GDPR from an SAP business objects perspective, where are most organisations at today in terms of their preparations and readiness?
It's quite a good question because obviously there are thousands of business objects customers in the UK alone. And one thing that we see a lot is that for customers where SAP business objects may not be the primary tool or may not be as mission critical as other applications they have in-house, business objects is often left behind a little bit, which is unfortunate because, like I said before, it is a platform which holds a lot of data. Some of that data, depending on the usage, can be sensitive, especially with people using HR reporting or customer base or retail and so on. And like I said, with business objects, it is quite difficult, or if not possible at all, actually, to perform all of the tasks required by GDPR. So to answer your questions, where customers are at, it's often not as far as they should. They rely on the basic auditing, which is coming out of business objects, but that only informs them about what has been done in the past or what will people do in the future. It will not inform them about sensitive data that they hold and where it is. So yeah, that's pretty much what the situation is, I believe.
Fantastic. Thank you. Just to follow up with that, there was another similar question that got sent to me that was saying, is business objects high on the radar for people that are having to deal with the GDPR challenge at the moment? And you probably answered that already, but I don't know whether you wanted to just comment on that, Patrick.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends of the GDPR awareness within an enterprise, which I'd like to think that, I mean, there's so much noise, publications and articles on GDPR in the last, in the last year even perhaps. So I would like to think that enterprises are familiar with this. I just think that people who have business objects who may not be experienced with what the solution does may not be fully aware of the risk of the data which is held. Yes.
Fantastic. And certainly looking at some of the tools that you highlighted earlier with the 360 eyes in particular, that seems like it's a really critical tool in terms of that data discovery piece for GDPR. I suppose it prompted me to think, are there any things that you would expect as a minimum within business objects that customers should be aware of? So what would you think of as the sort of the minimum features and functionality that people should be looking at to try and get that kind of coverage?
Yeah, there's no doubt that we see for us GDPR, we see this as a two-part process. There's the part where you need to discover what you have, how much personal data do I have and where is it and how is it used and so on. And then there are the actions that you need to take. Now, eyes is the tool that can help you answer all of the questions of before. What do I have? Do I have personal data and all that? And eyes will be even more powerful if you use it with 360 Univ. Eyes is also very powerful because it will give you a lot of answers of the after. So when you take actions, you want to make sure, for instance, let's say you take actions to update your security model. Eyes will make sure it's been done properly. Or you make actions to clear some reports. Well, again, eyes will tell you that. So eyes is definitely the number one tool to give you all of the insight you need for your GDPR projects.
Fantastic. Good to know. Well, we are hitting against the thresholds of time. So I just wanted to say thank you once again to Patrick for that great insight that he's provided. And obviously, look forward to seeing a lot more of those tools coming out into our customer environments very, very soon. Just a quick piece of follow-up. Obviously, you saw from Patrick's that there is a trial version of 360 available. We're more than happy to facilitate a lot of those conversations. So whether you're a direct customer of GB and Smith already, or a direct customer of Turnkey, then we're more than happy to broker those relationships to introduce you to the other party to make sure that you get the right skills and expertise to your particular requirements. Just in parallel with that, Turnkey are also offering a GDPR workshop. So it's a bit of an assessment really to see where you are on the GDPR roadmap, highlight any of the requirements that you may not already be aware of, and looking to see what kind of technology sets may well be appropriate, including some of those 360 products that we've just spoken about today. So once again, feel free to get in touch with us about that particular requirement as well. So there are a plethora of interesting resources on the Turnkey website as well. So again, we wanted to just draw that to your attention. An on-demand webinar that's already talking about some of the SAP GRC products that are out there in the marketplace, and some ebook collaterals as well about how you can prepare for the GDPR regulation, what it means, and also some of the pragmatic solutions that are available within SAP Process Control if you've already got that within your application landscape. So that brings us to a close for this particular webinar, but as we say, feel free to get in touch with either Patrick or myself or your Turnkey representative if you have somebody different from your particular engagements. But thank you very much for joining. I hope that it's been insightful, and I look forward to seeing you again on a future event. Thank you very much, guys.